Welcome to Better Odds Sports Betting. Here's our hosts, Kiev O'Neill and Kyle Hunter.
Welcome to Better Odds Sports Betting, everybody. We're back. It's college football season again. If you didn't know college football was back, how about those games last night? The backyard brawl in Penn State and Purdue coming through in a big way. I don't think I realized how much I missed college football until I watched those games last night. Amazing stuff. Joined here by Kiev O'Neill, as I am always, of the oddsbreakers.com. We're also joined by Kelly Ford. Kelly with a website, kfordratings.com. Am I correct on that, Kelly?
Yep, that's correct, Kyle.
Yeah, Kelly, thanks for joining us today. Pleasure to have you here today. I know you do a lot of college football ratings work, and we're excited to talk to you about breaking all these games down.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Kyle. Thanks to you and Kiev for bringing me on. I'm so excited. Like you said, college football is back, and we didn't realize how much we missed it till we had it back. Well, it's back now, and my goodness, it feels good.
Oh, it absolutely does. Kiev, how you doing? How's the start of the college football season looking for you?
Week 0 was a little dicey, but last night was fantastic. I hit my larger play on Central Michigan, covering through the back door. That was just a fantastic game. That thing went over in the first half, by the way. So that was just a shootout. But, at one point, I was like, I know Central Michigan's got the offense. I think Oklahoma State's going to lay off. And they ended up getting that backdoor cover. And as soon as they made it 14, it was smooth sailing, having 21 in the hook. The Penn State Purdue didn't go quite as well for me. I mean, the good news is I hedged back at plus money on Penn State. I mean, I was seeing it back and forth so much, and I was live betting a little myself. I'm like, I got to send this out to some members. You got to hedge back in this situation. It was in the fourth quarter, and my number wasn't as good as when I sent it out. As soon as it came out, Penn State went 3 and out. So hopefully they got a better number. But the important thing is that it was a great game, and lots of controversy with that catch at the end, and I think it was a 50-50 call, but what a great start to college football, man. It got me so excited, Kyle.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic stuff. I feel like there was a couple close calls there. Also, the West Virginia one, that was a really close call right by the goal line. I do think that was incomplete, but, could have been a fantastic finish if that one was caught. I kind of wish as a fan we would have gotten overtime in the backyard brawl, yes. But college football delivered in a big way. Kelly, why don't you take a little bit of time to tell us about your website and how you kind of analyze college football?
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. So as you mentioned, I have a website, kfordratings.com. You can also find me on Twitter at kfordratings. That's where I'm most active. But my work mainly is in 2 areas. It's power rating and resume ranking. So for all 131 FBS teams this year, I have a preseason power rating, or now a week 1 power rating. Since we did have some week 0 games, we do have some in-season data for 18 of the FBS teams coming into week 1. So the power ratings wise, it's very similar. Think of like Bill Connolly, SP Plus, or Brian Formose, FEI. Those are the 2 guys who I really strive to be like and who I'm trying to emulate when it comes to making my power rating. So I studied everything about their ratings and their work before starting out on my own. But now that I am going on mine, it's been fun to kind of take the twists and the turns and learn as I'm going here. So in the preseason, which is what we still are for the large majority of FBS teams, it's really 3 factors that go into my numbers. And it's returning production, recent recruiting, and then recent team success or recent K-Ford ratings, which is what I call my power rating. So those are the only 3 inputs that I look at coming into the season. I'll be referencing those a lot as we talk about some games here today. And then once we get into the season, of course, I do take in-game data. So I know we're going to talk North Carolina a little bit. They've got a little bit of in-game data from their game last week, albeit against an FCS team. We can still learn against FCS competition, even though I don't have FCS ratings. And then for my other area of work, it's resume rankings. So I call them my most deserving rankings. And what those are, it's a results-based metric that I use to rank teams based on what they've accomplished to this point in the season relative to what the average top 25 team would be expected to have accomplished to this point in the season. So very similar to like ESPN strength of record in a lot of ways. But I use my power ratings as the engine for that. And then I take it maybe a half step further than strength of record. And I also incorporate a scoring margin relative to what would be expected of the average top 25 team to have against that schedule as well. So K Ford Power Ratings, most deserving resume rankings. I post them on my website. I post about them on Twitter. That's where you can find it. But I love college football, always have, and it's been a cool way for me to kind of use my math background to further enhance my hobby here with college football. And people use it for betting. I don't always do that, but I know we are on a betting show, so we're going to talk about betting today, and I definitely enjoy that as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You got some fantastic stuff going on over there. I love the average for what a team should have won by versus what the top 25 teams. I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it. And like you said, in game, how they've performed is going to be really interesting, especially early in the season when you don't have too much data to go off of. That's definitely very helpful. Kelly also has a podcast. Give a quick plug there for your podcast. I love the name of it, Kelly.
I do, Kyle. Yeah, thanks. And Kyle knows it very well because he was a guest in our inaugural season last year. But yeah, my buddy Zach King and I have a podcast. It's called We Hate Your Team. And we are definitely embracing the hate more this year, Kyle, on season 2. We were nice guys last year. We're definitely embracing that name and embracing the hate this year. So we're back for season 2. We've had a few episodes already. We drop new episodes every week on Thursdays. We're also going to get into our live shows on YouTube on Sunday nights here once the season gets rolling. And then once we get later in the season and we have college football playoff selection committee rankings, we do live reactions to those on our YouTube channel on Tuesday nights as well. So Thursday, new episodes, Sunday live show on YouTube, Tuesday live show on YouTube later in the season. My buddy Zach and I at We Hate Your Team _ on Twitter. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Nice. Definitely tune in for it. Great name. Love that. Guys, let's get into breaking down some of these games here for college football week 1. I have to say, this is a fantastic slate. Week 0 was a kind of whet your appetite. These are some fantastic games here for week 1. Let's start off with Oregon and Georgia. A big game where Georgia is essentially playing a home game. I know it's not a home game, but it's essentially a home game. So Georgia, a big favorite here in this one. Georgia by 16.5. This line's gone down just a little bit here in the last day. We had 17.5. Now we see 16.5. So there's been some buying in on Oregon in this one. Kiev, I'm going to let you start on this one. What are your thoughts here on Oregon and Georgia?
Absolutely. First, Phil was wondering where the North Texas hat is, Kyle. I'll give Phil a little wink for I might have North Texas involved a little bit later in this show. But, Kyle's usually has the best hats, but he's got to rep Cincinnati, who was a group of 5 school that made the playoffs. I love that right now as well. So props to Kyle for wearing that. This total confuses me a little bit. I don't know why it went up. I see it 54 in DraftKings. And, obviously there's a little push on Oregon, which I also agree with because nobody knows this offense better than Kirby Smart. But the second person is probably Oregon head coach Danny Lanning. He's the defensive coordinator in this team. He sees all the ins and outs. Georgia lost a lot of power, I would say. They still have Burton, but they lost Pickens. And actually Burton left. He went to Alabama, right, Kyle? And that's 2 big receivers they had in that offense. But the thing about this is Georgia, they're going to come in with the attitude that we're not going to let our defensive coordinator who left us for a coaching job score on us, so they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder too. I like how Georgia just kind of milks the second half a little bit. I wouldn't be betting the under on the first half. But I think this game stays under just based upon the defensive prowess with Danny Lanning and the Georgia kids that are 4- and 5-star recruits. I think these points is way too much. I took the under 52. You can get a better number than that right now. I think it's worth it for a couple stars.
Makes sense to me. I can certainly understand that. As far as my thoughts on this game here quickly, the Bo Nix experience is always a wild one. We never know exactly what's going to happen with him. I remember a few of those plays where he looks amazing, and then some of those plays where you wonder what's going on. I think Oregon's going to be a good team. It's just how high is their ceiling? They do have quality talent. And I think some people overlook the fact that they have some great linebackers. Sewell, Justin Flo, some really good linebackers. I think probably top 6 or 8 group of linebackers in the country. You give Lanning that good of linebackers. I think Oregon's defense has a chance to be just as good or better than last year. They kind of underachieved last year for having such a star in Thibodeau. So to me, Georgia, they get ahead. They usually slow the pace down, kind of like Kiev said. They're not a team that usually runs up the score. I would think they'd run the football a lot, use the time. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I would lean toward taking Oregon plus the points if I were taking something here. I think the under makes sense as well. Like Kiev said, interesting to see the line going up, even 54.5 in some places. Probably at least some of that, guys, probably due to the fact that there were so many high scoring games last night. You know, those games last night had a lot of points in them, and people certainly remember that. So we'll see what happens in this one. But Kelly, let's hear your thoughts here on the Oregon and Georgia game.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys said there. My numbers like Georgia in this game by 15.5. So I guess I would be taking Oregon in the points. And it's important to note I'm treating this as a neutral site game, though. I know we talked about that. It's in Atlanta. You can argue, is it really a neutral site? My numbers view it as such because it's not in Athens. So because of that, I like Georgia by about 15.5. Georgia's my number 3 team coming into this year, guys, behind only Alabama and Ohio State. This defense was historic last year. We know that. They lost a ton. And I'm still projecting them to be the number 2 defense in the country this year, just because of all that great recruiting that they still have on that roster, including people they brought in just this year. Top 5 offense to go with it. This is a really good Georgia team. Oregon is nothing to scoff at. I've got them number 15 right now in my power ratings. But just, playing in Atlanta against Georgia, I like the storylines with Dan Lanning, but I expect Georgia in this game to roll. I see them winning by more than 2 scores.
That makes sense to me. I think Georgia is clearly the better team. I've heard some people say, well, Georgia recruits so well, they're not going to drop off much at all. It's hard to not drop off some in some of the positions that they lost, right? I mean, you don't lose Jordan Davis and then just throw somebody in that's just going to be as good as him. So we'll see. I think Georgia is a team that you could even argue you'd want to play Georgia at the beginning of this season rather than the end of the season, because their talent is so good that by the end of the season, this Georgia team could be really good again. Early in the season, we'll find out. But I think this line is pretty close to right here on this one, and I agree with your guys' thoughts on this one. So let's move on to Utah and Florida. Utah and Florida, fantastic matchup here. I'll start on this one. I think Billy Napier is a really good coach. I think he'll do a good job at Florida. The question is, it's game 1. What's going to happen in game 1 of Billy Napier? A lot of unknown. I think Richardson's a good fit for him. One thing that I think some people do overlook is Richardson had a lot of turnovers, some really bad decisions, things that really can't happen in close games against good teams. So is he going to keep that up, or is he going to cut down on that? The Florida defensive line was really weak last year, 4.46 yards per carry allowed. I think Patrick Toney's defense will improve there. I know Utah is getting a lot of hype this year, and I kind of hate teams that are really hyped up a lot, but I have to tell you, I really like Kyle Whittingham a lot. I think he's a really good coach. If you go back, Whittingham's cashed over 55% of the time against the spread in his career. So just betting on Whittingham coach teams has made you really good money. They're 7-1 against the spread in their last 7 when they're either a dog or favored by 6.5 or less. And they're 60-43 in that role since 2008. So he's not done great when a big favorite, but when he's either a dog or a small favorite, Utah's done well. I think this is a Utah team that is really good in the trenches, and I like teams that are so strong in the trenches, veteran teams. I think Utah has a top 10, maybe top 5 offensive line in the country, and they're always excellent on the defensive line. You guys know that. So I think that'll be the same again here. I have to say I lean Utah in this one, but I'm getting worried that this price is getting so expensive. This one has really moved a lot. There's been a lot of bets come in on Utah. Florida definitely is a tough place to play. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about this one. Kelly, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, again, agree with a lot of what you said there. A lot of hype around Utah this preseason, and I think it's deserved, right? Utah, in my numbers right now, number 9 in the entire country. Going on the road to the Swamp is not easy. I've got Florida as the number 29 team in the country right now in my power ratings. I think both of these defenses are about the same, actually, in terms of what I'm projecting. I know we talk about Utah's defense last year and Florida historically having a good defense. I expect Billy Napier to bring that side of the ball back. Both top 40 projected coming into this year, but the difference for me is on the offensive side. It's a top 10 offense projected for Utah, while Florida's merely top 25. So still a really, really good team. I do like Utah in this game. I like them by about 2.5, which is right around where the spread is. Makes me feel good about my numbers and my model. But yeah, I do like Utah. 58% win probability for the Utes, and I think they're going to get it done in the Swamp. This is the game that I'm most looking forward to this week from a neutral national perspective. There's a couple big games. This is the one, though, that catches my eye as being the most projected to be the most competitive.
Yeah, I like that. I think this is the funnest game. I think this one's is it in the evening?
It's
When is this game?
this
It's the
it's
same time as Notre Dame and Ohio State, isn't it?
So it's a 7 p.m. kick,
Okay.
Eastern. So I'll have it here. Kyle, I've got the 5 TV set up. I'll have it on the main screen for the first hour, but then once Ohio State and Notre Dame get going a little bit later, this game will move to a secondary, but it's still prime time game, huge matchup, very excited.
Yeah, definitely. There's some great games Saturday night. There's a lot going on Saturday night. That 5 TV setup that Kelly has is going to come in very handy. I've got the 3 TV set up, so I'm not quite on his level, but it's still pretty good. It's sometimes I have to fight with the kids on whether one of the TVs is going to be on, some kind of cartoon or something like that. But this Saturday, all 3 are going to be on college football for sure.
Sorry about that, guys. My internet went out here. I'm back, I think. So
yeah, we can hear you. So we were just talking on Utah and Florida. So Kiev, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Cameron Rising, how about that performance he had in the Rose Bowl? Even in a losing performance, that was absolutely fantastic. I think they should play I See the Bad Moon Rising when he comes up and plays football in Utah, because they are fantastic. Utah has an amazing home field advantage, as we know, but we're going to Florida here, and this line stunk for a long time. I mean, you're like, this Utah team, look what they did, and they're coming only 2 points favorite on the road against a brand new Florida team. Well, Richardson's a big guy, and a lot of people like to call him a potential like Cam Newton type player. Maybe Billy Napier can make him into a Cam Newton player, but I expect this offense to be a little bit sloppy, and I expect Utah to be buttoned up. I took the -2 a while ago, and it's at 3, so I'm not going to recommend it at 3. But the funny thing about this is that Utah should be playing with a chip on their shoulder. They're a big school that wasn't invited to the Big Ten as of yet. They weren't invited to the SEC. I'm looking at this situation, and I'm thinking that we have playoff hopes. You're coming in this game quite focused as a Utah fan. Now, the line at 3 makes me feel a lot more comfortable about my -2, but I'll tell you this, going and playing in the swamp, there could be a lot of surprises that you encounter. So at the 3, I'm just going to have to lean Utah, but it's going to be one of the best games to watch this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I had to bet the total, I'd probably lean to the over here. I think both teams will be able to score a decent amount. Weather is something that you should keep an eye on. Obviously, Florida weather this time of the year, you never know what's going to happen. And a lot of people talk about weather and how important it is once it gets to November and stuff. But there can be some weather early in the season as well, so pay attention to that. Let's move on to Cincinnati and Arkansas here. Another fantastic game. I feel like a broken record there, but these are some tremendous games here for week 1. I think both Cincinnati and Arkansas are really well-coached quality programs. I think both Fickle and Pittman are easy guys to root for as well. These are 2 teams that I like to root for. Obviously, being from Ohio, Ohio State's my team, but I would say Cincinnati's my second favorite team. I like Fickle quite a bit. Gaduli comes in as the new offensive coordinator. They'll run the same type of offense, but Cincinnati lost so much from last year. I mean, Cincinnati is recruited well. They're a good program. But how do you lose 9 NFL draft picks or 9 guys in the NFL now and not drop off at least some if you're Cincinnati? This is not, Alabama or Ohio State or Georgia. I think Cincinnati has to drop off some. I do think it's a little bit odd, too, that Ben Bryant leaves and then comes back. I don't know if Bryant's going to see more of the time or if it's going to be Prater. I know a lot of Cincinnati fans think the youngsters is really their future. I think, the offensive line is Cincinnati's strength. So Cincinnati's going to try to run the football as much as they can. They have the Pace brothers as stars now at linebacker after Ivan transferred in from Miami. And I think he'll probably be the better of the Pace brothers. But Arkansas, KJ Jefferson was 13th at PFF in quarterback grade last year. So I guess kind of the question is, you lose Burks, and obviously that's a huge loss. How much does that hurt him? Because obviously Jefferson can make plays with his legs. How much can he do with his arms? My big concern for Cincinnati in this game is Cincinnati got ran over by that Alabama offensive line in the playoffs. And if you go back to last year, the Alabama offensive line was not as good as this Arkansas offensive line. I think Arkansas is going to want to run the football early and often here. I'm a bit concerned that Cincinnati won't be able to stop that. So initially I thought I would lean toward taking the points with Cincinnati. It was 7 for a while. It dropped back to 6. Now we're sitting at 6.5. If I had to bet this game, I would lean Arkansas. So as a fan, I like Cincinnati, but I think this matchup could be tough for them. Kiev, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a fantastic matchup because you have that playoff team, obviously, coming in here against another SEC opponent. Obviously they have SEC's got an amazing track record. Arkansas was completely mind-blowing last year how well they did, and KJ Jefferson was a big leader here. But like you said, losing Treylon Burks and a couple other guys is very interesting. They did get a stud linebacker and transfer from named Drew Sanders. I think he's going to make a little noise this year as well. And Bumper Pool, the name that Kyle likes to say, amazing, all day long, all year long, we're going to be saying Bumper Pool. Here's the thing about this line, and now that it's up to 7, I'm going to switch my lean back to Cincinnati. Everyone's saying you couldn't stop the run against Alabama. Don't think that these kids haven't thought that all year long. Don't think the coach is going to come in here and think about that. They're going to stack the box a little bit. They're going to make KJ Jefferson win. I like Jefferson a little bit more on the run than as a pocket passer, so I think that's kind of intriguing right here. It almost feels like I should be touching the spread at 7, but I'm not. If it gets to 7.5, I'm going to probably be forced to bet Cincinnati just for their integrity of making the playoffs last year. But it is true they did lose a lot of players, and my pure power number is minus 5.25. So it's not a play yet, but I'm just curious to see where this line goes.
What do you think, Kelly, about this one?
Yeah, so for me, this game's really, really interesting, and I want you to take what I'm about to say in context. The AP has both these teams ranked. I would have neither of these teams ranked in a top 25 power rating. They're both just outside. I've got Cincinnati 27 and Arkansas 30. I'm still super excited about this game. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be close. I've talked about this before on other outlets. I probably have Arkansas undervalued at this point in the season because my numbers, I talked about earlier what go into them. One thing that was missing from that are the intangible things that you can't really measure or capture mathematically, which is what my model is all about. So all of the intangibles about Arkansas specifically, but to a lesser degree, Cincinnati as well. Sam Pittman being a great culture fit there. Luke Fickell, same thing at Cincinnati. Just the momentum around both of these programs, just the arrow seems to be pointed straight up in both these places. Cincinnati getting ready to make the jump to the Big 12. Arkansas just building and building under Sam Pittman. I think they're going to explode. They play in the SEC West, right? So that's the toughest division in college football. It's hard to really rack up a lot of wins in the SEC West. Both these programs heading in the right direction. I'm really excited for this game. I think it's going to be fantastic. It was the runner-up, and I know later we're going to talk about which underdog for 3.5 points or more do you like to have a chance to maybe win the game outright. This was my runner-up game because you guys just mentioned the line 6.5, 7, somewhere around there. My numbers like Arkansas in this game, but they only like them by 2. So I've got it as a 56% win probability for Arkansas. I expect it to be really close. It's almost a dead even matchup on both sides of the ball, both top 20 Cincinnati offense, Arkansas defense, and then just right around top 25, top 30 for the other sides of the ball. So the difference, in my opinion, in this game really is the home field advantage. That's kind of how it get down to my 2-point projected spread. So yeah, give me Arkansas, but I'd be taking Cincinnati in the points, and I wouldn't be shocked if Cincinnati went down there and pulled the upset. And I think that could really throw people for a loop down in Arkansas with all the excitement, and also just in the SEC West. People might write off Arkansas a little bit earlier than they should because this Cincinnati team is really good despite everything they lost from last year's playoff team.
And Kelly's not making any SEC friends on this show, I'll tell you that.
I guess I am 0 for 2 there, huh? No, I gave him Georgia. So I'm 1 for 2 on that. But yeah, but sorry to my SEC friends.
His podcast is named "We Hate Your Team," so I mean, how much love is he actually going to give out, right? Let's move on here. Kelly picked this game, so I'm going to let Kelly start on this one. It's North Carolina against App State. I think this is a really sneaky little great game there in Boone, North Carolina. Kelly, what is your take on this one?
Kyle, remind me what's the line right now? The current line? We got North Carolina favored or App State favored?
App State's favored now minus 1.5. The total's 56.5.
Okay, so App State favored minus 1.5. I like this game for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, it's a regional college football game. I think college football, it's always been, and it should always be. We know it's not with conference realignment. I love regional college football games. I get really excited about these. I think it's going to be a great environment there in Boone. My numbers, so App State's favored. My numbers actually like North Carolina in this game by a point. So again, not huge deviation from the spread, but it is across that money line. So I would take North Carolina this one. I take a money line to try to make a little bit more on that. 53% win probability for North Carolina. I have them as the number 38 team in the country right now in my power ratings. That is down from number 33 last week. So while I did like what I saw from North Carolina to a certain extent, they did not perform to the level that my numbers would have expected you to perform against FCS quality opponent in week 0. So I do like North Carolina. Like I said, number 38. I've got App State right around number 51. I think the best unit here in this game is that North Carolina offense. I've got them top 20. That App State offense right around number 50 as well. So both offenses I think are going to have the better of the defenses here. But give me North Carolina in the upset straight up. I do like them to win. But either way, regional college football, that's where it's at for me. That's why I wanted to talk about this game. That's why I wanted it on the show. So that's what I think, Kyle.
Nice. I think I'm going to lean the other way in this one and think App State has a good shot in this one. I'm not going to bet this game, so I'm more a fan of this one than anything else. I will tell you, I considered the under in this game. That was my strongest lean here. But North Carolina's defense is underachieved for so long now. I'm wondering when their defense is actually going to play up to their potential. And honestly, kind of what Kelly alluded to there, 335 yards given up against Florida A&M. I mean, Florida A&M had quite a few points. They had 24 points before the end of the third quarter. So it wasn't just last second scoring in that game or anything. North Carolina's defense concerns me. Now, on the App State side, the question is which Chase Bryce shows up. So is it Duke Chase Bryce or is it last year's Chase Bryce, or at least most of the year? He did have a couple games last year where he really cost them, but was good in general. App State shouldn't be able to throw the football very well. The question is, can they run it? With Peoples and Noel, they have two really good running backs for sure. Good offensive line. I think that App State is going to be so amped for this game. I think it's going to be a fantastic environment for football. I'm looking forward to this game a lot as a fan. This is one of my favorites of the weekend, even though it's not quite the marquee matchup. But like I said, I leaned under. I had to stay off of it because I'm a bit worried that North Carolina's defense just chronically underachieves. So, Kiev, what is your thought on this one?
Well, I'm a little biased. I have a +3 on App State, and I took that 3 weeks ago, and so now I'm sitting here. But my power rating is all I can give you is I have them -1.5 points. I have App State right now, but here's the thing: App State has underachieved when they stepped up in competition, and that's kind of been the fact with them since that big Michigan game years ago. Probably like put them in the FBS. I mean, last year you kind of look and they go to Miami and they lose that game at Miami. And this is kind of when my people weren't quite high on Miami. I believe they were probably a favorite in that game. And then, when they played Lafayette, Louisiana, we should say that Lafayette name dropped. They lost both of those games. They lost the bowl game against Western Kentucky. They just kind of sink when they come in this level. But here's the thing. North Carolina is not making any friends with the fans right now, especially their first game against Florida A&M, allowing them 24 points. And North Carolina really pulled away at the very end. Now, here's the thing. These kids know that they're coming into this game. The best unit in this whole game, I agree with Kyle, is the North Carolina offense. I'm going to tell you right now, this line's going to go to 3. I see the momentum right now. It's a big game for Appalachian State. You're going to get a lot of contrarian public coming in, feeling like they're on the right side. I will probably have a full buyback at the 3 if this happens, and I expect a very close game, a one-score game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good spot to be in if you can get 3 on each side, certainly. And, one thing that we always preach quite a bit here is you got to get the best of the number because so many of these games fall close to it. I mean, Kelly's a numbers guy. You don't want to be laying 7 when you could be laying 6.5. Some people are like, it won't matter. It's going to matter way too often. I promise. You want to be getting the best of the number for sure. So I kind of agree with Kiev. I think this will go to at least 2.5, maybe 3 here on App State. It looks like that's the way the market's trending. About 60% of the money is on App State, and especially lately, that's the way this has been going. So we'll see if it gets to that point. I think it'll be a fantastic matchup. So let's go on here to Columbus and take Notre Dame and Ohio State. I didn't wear the Ohio State hat because I didn't want to be a homer, but I feel like I should have. I feel like I kind of abandoned Ohio State a little bit, but everybody who's heard me knows where my allegiances lie on this game. I really hate betting Ohio State games because emotionally I'm already so invested in the game that I don't want to bet the other side. And then if Ohio State blows them out, then I'm mad. Or if I bet Ohio State and they don't cover, then I'm upset, even though they won. So this is a spot that I really don't like to bet in too often. I will say the line has really gone up a lot. As I handicap this game, we see a 17 or 17 and a half pretty much across the board now. Phil is an Irish fan, and we can respect that. Phil's a good guy. This is a Notre Dame team that I think is probably on the right path long term. I like Marcus Freeman quite a bit. He's doing a great job in recruiting. Some of the recruits they're pulling in for next year, he's much better recruiter than was Brian Kelly there. So if he can be a good game day coach, I think Notre Dame is on the right path. Now, as far as this, if I could go back and take Ohio State minus the number they were in the summer, I would consider taking Ohio State here, and that would be my lean. But 17 to 17 and a half is too many points for me to be taking Ohio State. I think it's really hard to have power ratings have them as much as a 17 and a half point favorite here. Now, their defense is the big question mark. How quick do they turn it around with Jim Knowles? We've heard that that's a complex defense, and maybe it'll take some time, but I think they'll certainly be better right away. It's just how much better. One thing I wanted to throw out is we talked some about pizza money bets here, Kiev. And I think Travion Henderson has been dissed a little bit by the majority of people. CJ Stroud's tremendous. Smith and Jigba's tremendous. Henderson's a really good running back. I think he's far better than people realize. Maybe the second best running back in the country. Bijan Robinson may be better than him, but I think Travion Henderson is excellent. If you like Ohio State to win the national title or think that they have a chance this year, I've seen worse bets than Travion Henderson to win the Heisman this year. I think there could be at least a chance for that if he stays healthy. So that's the way I'll look for a long-term bet here. Like I said, I can't bet the spread. I would lean to the over, thinking that Ohio State will score their points. The question is, how many will Notre Dame score here? And really, that's the key to the handicap. So, Kelly, what is your take on this key matchup?
My take is very similar to yours, Kyle. My numbers like Ohio State in this game, but they like them by 13 and a half points, not 17, closer to the 13 and a half that it opened at. Ohio State, as I said, the number 2 team in the country this year for me, only behind Alabama. I have a very clear-cut top 3, tier 1, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia. There's a significant drop after that to number 4, and then another kind of half-step drop after that, because I have Notre Dame number 6 in the country power rated. Like, this is a very, very good Notre Dame team, but I'm still projecting them to lose by almost 2 touchdowns at Ohio State because the top 3 teams are just that much better than everybody else. Ohio State, number 1 offense in the country last year, according to my numbers. I'm projecting them to be number 1 again this year. Some people have said, yeah, but they lost so much at receiver. They did, and they replaced it with former 5-stars who are going to be future first-rounders just the same. Kyle, you talked about Travion Henderson. You talked about Jackson Smith and Jigba, CJ Stroud. There's Heisman Trophy contenders all over the field on that offensive side of the ball. The question mark, as you said, is the defense. They brought in Jim Knowles. Can they turn it around? My numbers think they can. And part of this is driven by there's a lot of talent in terms of recruiting rankings on that defensive side of the ball already. They underperformed last year relative to where you would expect a team with that talent roster to be. I'm projecting the Ohio State defense this year to be a top 20 unit. Notre Dame, top 20 on offense, top 10 on defense, number 6 overall. But going into Columbus in week 1, like you talked about earlier, Kyle, you want to play Georgia early. Maybe you want to play this Ohio State team early, right? Oregon got them last year in a very similar situation. Now, of course, Michigan got them late, but Oregon took advantage early. Can Notre Dame take advantage early as a defense is still trying to figure out their identity and what they're all about? But give me the Buckeyes, 83% win probability, 13 and a half points. I think they're going to roll.
Makes sense. And I think you could make the argument that if you're going to play Ohio State, you'd rather play them in week 1 than you would at the end of the season this year, especially with that defensive change. So, Kiev, what is your take on this matchup?
Well, first of all, Kyle, if you're going to talk about running backs and you don't mention Braylon Allen, my Wisconsin,
I knew that was coming.
I mean, that's like this right there, first of all. So I have no idea. Jonathan Taylor, hello, number 1 in fantasy. Okay, all right. Let's drop that. But anyways, this spread's massive. 17 points. I hate to say it, my power ratings are 18. I have Ohio State, the number 1 projected offense, Alabama number 2. I have them with Knowles, a top 10 projected defense. But here's the thing here. Everyone keeps remembering that Rose Bowl. What if they lost that Rose Bowl? What would this number be? 11, 12, 13? It's just so much speculation here. And I listen to the beat writers as well. But, man, this is Notre Dame here. And you have to remember that this Ohio State team, right before the Rose Bowl, lost to Michigan. They only beat Penn State by 9 or so points. They only beat Nebraska by 11 points. And this is Notre Dame they're playing with. And these Notre Dame kids have been watching this spread all summer long. Marcus Freeman takes over in a unique situation for Brian Kelly, but they at least have consistency at offensive coordinator with Tommy Rees. So how do you not like that tight end? They got Michael Mayer. He could be a key performer in this game. Tyler Buckner takes over for Jack Cohn. This number's too big for me, even though my power rating says 18. I'm just going to stay off this game. Maybe I'll have some pizza money live betting it, just having a little fun. But if you didn't get this 13 back in May, then you shouldn't be betting it. If you weren't prepared to grab the 13, there's no reason why you should be grabbing the 17 or 18, in my opinion. And this spread is just too massive, and everyone might be shocked that Notre Dame hangs a little bit with them. I have Ohio State winning this game, but there's absolutely no way that I can go with this massive of a spread. And if there's a college survivor, this will probably be one of the bigger picks coming up this weekend, if it's Power 5 anyway.
Yeah, agree with all that. And I totally agree. If you didn't take the 13 or 13 and a half, you just move on now. You don't want to take the 17 and a half or something now. That's so important to get a good number. I've seen a lot of big line moves here in week 1, and you guys know these lines have been available for a really long time. So people have been betting these games for months. Keep that in mind. This is not the average week when it comes to betting college football.
And I'd like to add, if this is close at halftime, you're going to get more value on Ohio State from the second half than you're going to see with the spread itself. This could start a little rocky. There could be some shenanigans, some crazy play calls the first couple drives. If this is close at half, you're going to get, maybe under 14, under 13 points on Ohio State, and they could still pull away. I like how Ohio State pulls away in the second half of a lot of their games. So.
And I would just add to reinforce what you guys said. You're the professional bettors here, not me. But from a numbers standpoint, ask yourself what's changed. We talk about these big line movements from when they open to now. What has changed? Is there a major injury? Is there a suspension? The answer to that is no. So if nothing's changed, why would you change your stance on the betting? That's kind of how I look at it from a numbers perspective when I'm power rating teams. So I agree with what you guys are saying.
Sure. Yeah. There's some people that love to bet something after they see steam on a certain move. And I question that judgment just because, just following what other people are doing, then they say, well, look at the steam move. They did a good job on minus 13 and a half. Well, now you're betting 17 and a half. And that game's going to fall in between that way too often. So your record isn't going to be near as good as those guys' record. So keep that in mind before you bet these games. Let's go on to a late game here for Saturday night. We're going to talk Boise State and Oregon State. I think this is a really good late game too. I think Kelly appreciates these really nice late slates as well, because I know I love having the multiple TV setup going. And once the kids all go to bed, wife goes to bed, I can watch all the games. And it's like, okay, here's the spot where I get to watch everything. I hate it when there's just terrible games on late at night. So good game here for the late slate. Boise State and Oregon State. Kiev, why don't you start us off on this one?
Boise State, Oregon State's a very interesting game to me. It went up to the 3, and then it went back down to 2.5 here. Both of these teams return a decent amount of production. Both quarterbacks are back. Hank Bachmeier for Boise State, and Chance Nolan is back for Oregon State. And really good offense there at Oregon State. They've been surprising me and other people. John Smith over there, 0.73 net yards per play last year. Actually, Boise was minus 0.23 last year. It's kind of strange. I looked at Boise and I'm like, how the heck are you minus 0.23 net yards per play? Both teams return a ton of defense, 9 starters apiece. So that makes me kind of look a little bit towards the under here in this situation. No team is playing like lights out, light speed. Boise State's so inconsistent last year, losing to UCF, Air Force, Nevada, but they also beat Fresno State. They beat BYU. They're just really hard to get a gauge for me. Pure power numbers, I have Oregon State -5, and I'm high on Oregon State this year. Go playing in Corvallis can be very tough atmosphere, but this game just feels really close to me. I didn't get to the window. It's -2.5. And if I'm not going to get to the window at -2.5, I'm probably not going to get it if it goes down to -1 or anything like that. I think it's an interesting game. Probably one I'm going to lean the under on. and then that's my best advice from now until I learn more about these teams.
Yeah, for me, Boise State would have been my lean at 3.5. And if this one were still at 3.5, I probably would have used this for my underdog most likely to win outright, because I think this is a completely 50-50 game. If you're going to take a underdog that's, plus 130 or something like that in a 50-50 proposition, then I take that. So as far as what I think of the current line, 72% of the bets are on Boise State, 79% of the money on Boise State. There's a couple dueling trends here. Oregon State was undefeated against the spread at home last year. They also were 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 openers. So they've not started the season too great, but they've been great at home. And Ron of Ron Ace Sports gave a great bit of knowledge on this one. Kiev, Ron well. He knows college football extremely well.
He went to Oregon State, actually.
And he went to Oregon State, so he knows Oregon State football really, really well. But he mentioned that the stadium is being renovated right now, and it's going to be like only half the stadium. It's like 20-some thousand seats, and it's going to be an interesting setup because they've got this massive undertaking going on at the same time. They're still playing games there, where some teams go ahead and play somewhere else. They're going ahead and playing there. It's going to be an interesting setup. Half the stadium closed. Boise, 20 of their top 22 tacklers are back from last year. I think this is a fantastic Boise defense. I think the Boise defense is probably the best unit here in this game. Avalos is a good defensive mind. Boise really underachieved a lot last year. They should have been better than that. I don't think Boise State's fan base and the program is okay with that kind of a season. So some pressure on them to pick it up here quite a bit. I would agree with Kiev that this being a lower scoring game would be the way I would look. Now, even at this number, I'm going to go ahead and lean Boise State in this game, thinking that Boise comes in with a chip on their shoulder. I will tell you, both of these are teams that I'd rather bet on than bet against, because I think Smith's a really good coach. So I'm not anxious to bet aside in this one. Kelly, what do you think about this one?
I think you stole all my talking points, Kyle. I'm right there with you with everything. I love this game. Again, regional college football. You got Oregon State, you got Boise State. This is a great regional college football game. I love it. This is my second game so far in the ones we picked. I'm going to take the underdog money line. I see it as a straight pick'em game here. It's 50-50, a 51% win probability for Boise State, in my opinion. So I would take Boise State in this game on the money line. Kyle, you also touched on it too. There's only one unit in this game of the 4 that's really above average even. I mean, most of these units are sitting there in the 50s and the 60s. I've got Boise State as a top 25 projected defense this year. So I'm going to ride that Boise State defense. I think they're going to be the difference in the game. And I like Boise State to go on the road here and get it done. So give me Boise State and the second money line underdog pick of the game. Kyle, you talked about these other late night games. There is some value, in my opinion, on a spread here as another late game. I think the current line right now, Washington minus 23. My numbers like Washington to only win by about 16.5 against Kent State. So you've got almost a full touchdown worth of value by my numbers, taking Kent State plus 23 in that late window. So I'll probably have that game on as well, Kyle. Not that I'm putting money on it, but for anyone out there who has some money to play with, I think Kent State plus 23 is a really good bet too in that late window.
Yeah, I like the bonus here from Kelly on that one. I don't know what to think about that game, because Kalen DeBoer is such a upgrade from what they had last year. I think there's some volatility in Washington and what they could be this year. I think I'd be a little bit scared to take Kent State in that one, just that if Penix actually looks good in that offense, Washington was so bad last year. They can't be even close to that bad. Having said that, 23.5 is pricing in them being excellent. So I understand where you're coming from as far as the numbers grab. Kiev, you have any quick take on that one?
My number is minus 16.5 too.
There it is.
I mean, it's funny. I didn't get to the window yet because there's something I feel like I'm missing here. Not that I'm not that good studying the MAC. I guess that's always been a conference that's been pretty tough on me. But in this situation here, I am afraid that DeBoer is going to run up the score if he can. He does play a little bit of a pace at times, and that it makes me wonder what this new Washington offense is going to look like. Washington's another team that the Big Ten said no to when they wanted to move up with Oregon, which is I think the Big Ten's nuts for not doing that personally, but that's a whole another discussion here. Now, Penix has played with DeBoer back in Indiana. DeBoer was a coordinator back then when Penix is actually doing well, so that makes me a little concerned as well. Kent State plays fast. Lightning speed means they'll lose fast. So that means they're going to give the other team more possessions to score more points. And that's where I'm worried about being on this side, even though my numbers say very early too.
Yeah, for transparency, my number is -20.5 here on Washington. So I am higher on Washington. I wanted to be higher than the market on them, and I can't be higher than the market because the market likes them so much in this game. So we'll see what comes of this one. We have one more game to talk about here before we get to our underdog to win outright, and that's Florida State and LSU. I'm not going to steal Kelly's talking points here. I'm going to let him talk first. So Kelly, what do you think?
Oh gosh, there's the pressure now. So generally speaking, don't love neutral site college football games. Opening weekend, big cities, big programs. I can get behind it. I think the line's spot on this one. I believe it's LSU -3. That's exactly what my numbers think as well. I've got LSU as the number 24 team in the country right now. Florida State number 32. So I do expect Florida State to be improved from what we've seen in years past. I'm really, really excited and curious to see what Brian Kelly can do down there in Baton Rouge. I think he was a great coach at Notre Dame. He took Notre Dame to places they hadn't been in a while. Never won that big game. I think that's a talking point that everyone's very familiar with, but he put them in position to be there. Not many programs can say they were in those positions. I think the best unit on the field here is that LSU defense. I do have them top 25. I think it's going to be a very even matchup. LSU offense versus Florida State defense, both around top 40, but that Florida State defense merely a top 50 unit. So I do think that LSU defense is the difference in this game. I do like the Tigers to get it done. Again, I'm treating it as a neutral site game. Is LSU playing in New Orleans against Florida State neutral site? Probably not. But even with that, I still like LSU to win by 3. So if you put it in some home field advantage points, I like them by even more. So give me LSU in this one. But I do think Florida State's a team that's going to be much improved this year. And in my opinion, college football is better when Florida State is good. I'm not a Florida State fan, but I do like when Florida State's good because I think spreading out that talent down there in Florida, if they're not all going to Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia, if they can stay at Miami, if they can stay at Florida, if they can stay at Florida State, that's better for college football in the competitive landscape. So give me LSU in this one.
I don't want him to go away from Ohio State, Kelly.
I get your point. The betterment of college football.
I understand your point. I get it. I just hear that as a Buckeyes fan. So, Kiev, let's hear your take on this one because I'll be honest, I don't have a strong opinion on this game. I think it's tough to have a real strong opinion, especially on a side for LSU. So much new going on for LSU. Who knows what to make of them? I feel like they could go 4-8 and it wouldn't be stunning, and they could go 9-3, 10-2, and it wouldn't be stunning. So, Kiev, what do you think about this matchup?
I think my spread is really close to where it is, -2, -2.5. Here's something interesting. The under is 5-0 in the Seminoles' last 5 games overall, but the over is 5-1 in the Tigers' last 6 neutral site games. So there you go. I mean, this site is more conducive to the over, right? Being in a protected area, being on turf, so I actually have a play in the total. It actually moved against me. I see some 49s right now. I liked it at 51.5. But to be honest with you, I can't handicap this game as Florida State versus LSU. I can only handicap it Florida State versus like a fresh Notre Dame team. Funny about this is this game happened with the coaches last year, game 1 of the season, where Notre Dame won 41-38 against Florida State. These coaches, it was back and forth and back and forth. It was a night game and everything. I remember exactly where I was watching it up in Flagstaff. Florida State was actually a decent team last year, but with a massively hard schedule. They had to play Notre Dame. They had to play Florida in the non-conference. Yeah, they had to go to Clemson, right? So, they're a little bit better than people thought. LSU's got all those transfers, and I don't even think we know if it's Jaden Daniels or redshirt freshman Garrett Newsmeyer. But I don't think it matters because I think that their defense is going to be a little bit suspect in the beginning. I think Florida State's going to get their points. And I also think that LSU is prone to give up points even that first big night in their own stadium. I think in general, night games are for the under in LSU, but this is a brand new team, a brand new experience, and this is a massive game for Mike Norvell. He needs this. Brian Kelly doesn't need this as much as Mike Norvell does, in my opinion. So one thing I did notice is that both offenses ranked in the top 29 in explosiveness. So that's more conducive to the over as well. I think history repeats itself, and I think we're in for a shootout. I think this is for a college game of this caliber and so much new faces on defense. the overs the look, and I took that for a couple stars.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm actually going to be looking at this game a little bit more here later today because I'm surprised this line has come down on the total. I would think that playing on a fast track like this, 49.5 is a pretty low total. I don't know what to make of Jaden Daniels. I've said this before. I feel like he's either like the best bad quarterback or the worst good quarterback, like somewhere in that range. He shows flashes. He hasn't been consistent. I'd like to see how he plays before I'd want to back LSU, that's for sure. But Florida State, Norvell needs this game pretty badly. I mean, it is a big game for Kelly in that, LSU fans have really high expectations. Orgeron got fired pretty quick after losing a championship, but Norvell's on a red hot seat. I think only maybe Scott Frost has a hotter seat.
Well, one coach has $100 million that's guaranteed no matter how much he does. The other coach doesn't. So that's kind of the way.
Very, very true. So yeah, some fantastic breakdowns there, guys. Kiev, let's go ahead and get into our segment here where we talk about a team of 3.5 points or larger as an underdog that could win outright. Let's let Kelly go first here because there's only so many ones that are actually decent options, and I don't want us to take his team. So who do you like here, Kelly?
You're too nice, Kyle. I mentioned earlier my runner-up in this would have been Cincinnati over Arkansas, but I'm going to go with Middle Tennessee here. What I saw earlier today was they are plus 4.5 against James Madison. I'm lower on the Dukes, I think, than most this year. Kyle, you posted a question on Twitter earlier. What season over/under win total or future are you most confident in? I think James Madison under 6.5 is a really safe bet. They only play 11 games, so if they lose, they have to go 7-4 or better to win that bet. So I think I'm lower on James Madison than most. I have a projected spread here of James Madison -1, so I do expect James Madison to win this game, but only a 52% win probability. So 48% chance that Middle Tennessee pulls the upset. That's the highest percentage as I look through the Week 1 slate. So give me Middle Tennessee. With the caveat that it's hard for me to project just how good James Madison is going to be this year because they're transitioning from FCS, which makes previous year's ratings, which is a large component in the preseason for me, very difficult to gauge. But give me Middle Tennessee. I think they got a chance to beat James Madison here this week.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there's a lot of variance in a game like this. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you're getting almost plus 200 on Middle Tennessee. So I think that's a good price grab there on that one. Kiev, who are you going to take for your underdog this week?
Well, first of all, I love that play, Kelly, because, think about it like this. They're going from the FCS to the FBS. I guarantee you Middle Tennessee State doesn't want to be that team to lose right away to that team coming up. There's going to be a lot of motivation here for Middle Tennessee State. I think it's fantastic, and I saw that James Madison lost a lot of production from last year. So just going back to what the comments said with Phil, I'm putting my North Texas hat on right now, and I'm bucking a trend. All right, I know if they covered Week 0, their cover rate's only 44%, but I'm just going with North Texas to win outright here. You're getting about plus 320. Against SMU. This team finished strong last year, winning 5 wins in a row. They ranked 13th in returning production. Ayun has been a pretty decent quarterback for them, and they learned how to run the ball. You have to remember with SMU, they lost Sonny Dykes to TCU. So there's that, Could be a little bit of uncertainty and definitely higher variance. Rhett Lashley takes over. I just think this throws a lot more variance into this game than people expect. I think the fact that North Texas is looking at this at home as a big win for them, just being at plus 320, I wanted to give you a fat one. I wasn't looking for a plus 5 or plus 6. I was looking for a plus 11 and a plus 320 on the money line. This is my favorite, and this is what I'm going to go with just based on the value. And Kyle and I have been pretty good at this little drill. If you've been following this show, we're definitely positive EV on them. And the times we both hit, we're always like, we should have parlayed them, because then it really gets big. But I'm going with North Texas, and I think they have a shot.
I have to say that's a bold call for sure. I don't know how I feel about that one. I think that there's enough variance that the plus 320 makes sense. Probably a better play to take the money line plus 320 than it is to just straight bet them plus 10 because there's going to be a high scoring game there. There's going to be a lot of points. I'm going to take the smallest of the underdogs of the three of us here today. Like I said, I would have taken Boise if they were still 3.5. I'm going to take Southern Miss here. Southern Miss is a team that I really like the season win total over on. That was one of my favorite plays. Got over 4.5. Southern Miss played 10 quarterbacks last year. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong for their offense went wrong. Will Hall's a good offensive mind. They have to be better than they were last year on offense. And actually, their defense is pretty good. Tylen Knight comes in. I think they should be a good defense. To me, Liberty, I mean, they lost so much. We don't really know what Liberty's going to be. I think Liberty's a well-coached team, certainly, but I think it's here for the taking for Southern Miss. And get plus 145 or 150 on that one. You go with that one. You go with Kiev's plus 320. Kelly's got a plus 185. If you want to put like $5 or something like that on some underdog parlay, don't come back to us if you bet big money on this, because this is definitely just a shot.
Don't come back to us.
Right. Well, if it wins, you could say something, I guess. But no, I mean, this is a.
We don't
this
advise
is
that kind of stuff, is all I'm saying.
To be fair, as Kiev said, we have done really well on this segment. You know, it's kind of a fun segment where we always preach bankroll management in general. So don't do anything crazy, but it's a fun segment. And I think those are some underdogs to keep an eye on this week. Kelly, thanks again for joining us. Why don't you let everybody know where they can find your work?
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. This was so much fun. Had an absolute blast. You can find me, kfordratings.com, also on Twitter at kfordratings. I have a podcast. It's called We Hate Your Team. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. So yeah, at kfordratings, at We Hate Your Team _ that's me. So really enjoy it. So excited college football is back. Had a great time with you boys today, and good luck to you guys and your picks. The rest of the way, I'll definitely be watching every single week.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Kiev, tell them about the Odds Breakers.
Odds Breakers is rolling right now. I mean, putting out plays, handicappers coming in. It's just a fantastic place to be in college football. So excited for college football right now. I just get the jitters, just thinking about watching some pigskin here, eating some good food. That's what it's all about for me, So we have free picks. You don't need to be a premium subscriber to have fun at the Odds Breakers. We have a great mailing list. If you want to get on it. We're just trying to make people better handicappers. And hey, if you like one of our cappers and you want to support us, because it does cost money to have websites and stuff, we're happy to have you. But at the same time, just come check us out, what we're doing. Let us know what we're doing good. Let us know what we're doing bad. We're always happy to hear from you.
Definitely check out the Odds Breakers as well. You can go to my website, huntersportspicks.com. All my premium plays up for sale there. Also, the free picks newsletter. I just sent out my free play for tomorrow. So if you sign up between now and tomorrow, give me a heads up and I'll send you the free play separately, because that newsletter already went out. 119 and 86 in the last 205 for those free plays. So about 58%. Last year, 53 and 27 in college football. I won't repeat that. I'm going to try to have a really good season. Long-term college football totals have been a big specialty of mine. So guys, it's been a really fun show. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Guys, enjoy the games. We'll be back again next Friday, and go get some winners, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you for watching Better Odds Sports Betting.